this term. So more of those ideas are in that chapter as well. So next I'm delighted to welcome Sue John to say a bit from a head teacher's perspective.
Thank you. Very pleased to be here with so many of my colleagues. It's wonderful to see so many head teachers sitting around the room. I want to talk about four things very, very briefly. The first one being context. Secondly, the kind of culture I think we need to create in schools. Something about creating opportunities. And finally, something about the challenges that we face. I think the context that we're working in is actually quite complex at the moment. I like to think of it as complex as opposed to complicated. That's probably the best way to phrase it. I think we're facing unprecedented challenges in terms of leadership in schools. We've moved from centralised, funded school improvement programmes now to a self-improving system. Is this a threat or an opportunity? I like to think it's an opportunity. I really do believe to tailor personalised support for teachers more effectively. So there is a sort of upside to that. But it is set against a rapid pace of change and a changing landscape of chains, networks such as challenge partners that I'm involved in, and teaching school alliances. But again, a word of caution there. In London, only 11% of schools are actually involved in teaching school alliances. So we can't have teaching school alliances solving everything within the capital or indeed beyond. And for those of us leading such alliances, our strategic partnerships, particularly in leadership development with organisations such as Future Leaders and Teaching Leaders, I think is quite vital. So we have our teaching school alliances, we also have to have our strategic partners. It's also a time when expectations, I believe, on individual teachers, the schools have never been higher. And so we need the very best teachers and the very best leaders in our schools. Now, for many of us, we've served our time as head teachers to reach where we've actually got to now. And you might argue that we're the old survivors. Many of us old survivors, looking around the room now, are retiring or about to retire. I think things have got to be done differently and they've got to be planned in a different kind of way. I was also quite concerned reading the National College Survey recently of the number of middle leaders. There's a decline in the number of middle leaders who want to become head teachers. That's a concern, and we look to organisations like Teaching Leaders to perhaps raise those aspirations and ambitions. So what kind of culture do we need to create to spot talent and develop it? Because that's something which we're really going to have to need to do. There's a wonderful quote by an American academic which goes like this: imagine a school where simply by teaching there you become a better teacher. Right? Imagine that. What would that school look like is the question that's posed. The same could be true for leadership development. It shouldn't be left to chance that it depends on which school you actually work in, that you actually have the opportunities that you need to develop as a leader and as a teacher. The greater challenge, I think, is how can the kind of culture we need to develop be replicated across a more autonomous system? That is a challenge for us. I offer you some thoughts on what has worked for us at Lambton School, where I believe we have quite a stable staffing situation. And with that comes greater consistency. We all know with greater consistency, you can very often be more effective as an organisation. Having said that, in terms of consistency, there's a but. And a very important but. That staff have permission to innovate and inquire within a context of personal and professional growth. That is really important in terms of developing talent. We invest heavily in professional development, as no doubt all of you do. But I think it's becoming more personalised and more bespoke, not one size fits all, and I think that is absolutely vital. Much can be delivered in-house. In London Challenge, which has been referred to quite frequently, we did a lot of work trying to map where the knowledge was in the system, and then to move that knowledge around and have people with the skills to be able to do it. You can do the same within a school. How many of us actually map the knowledge within our schools? Do we know who the best people are at questioning, and then put in structures where they can actually support others? So I think knowledge management within schools is really, really important. Our leadership ethos is focused on the fact that all are leaders of learning, but all have the capacity to develop and grow. It's not a deficit model. There is a training culture in our school. We've been very, very fortunate. And I think it's really important, as more and more people come in from non-traditional backgrounds, that if there is a gap in a person's knowledge and skills, that is seen as a training need. And it is not a deficit of that particular person. They may not have had those opportunities. We have a provision-based model of opportunities to see if colleagues can rise to various challenges. People are encouraged to follow their passions. People always work harder at what they're passionate about. And if they come with an idea that we think will have an impact, then we will allow them to create their own opportunities, and we do. I know we can do things for no money whatsoever, but we do, or we have, liberally used additional payments for project-based work for people so they can be encouraged. I think we've also become more systematic in spotting and developing talent, and we use our own matrix now for assessing individuals' capability. We look at mission and belief as a starting point, the ability to lead learning, to build and lead a team, and cognitive ability. Within those four matrices, we look to see where people are and how we can provide opportunities for them to develop the paths that they need to develop. Our support structures, probably like your own, are based around performance management, an extensive programme of in-house CPD. Very important that is delivered by anybody within the school at whatever level. Usually all people have something to offer, so it can be delivered by NQTs through to more senior colleagues. I don't think our culture of taking risks and trying to develop and fast-tracking younger, sometimes less experienced staff could work within a hierarchical structure. We have quite a flat leadership structure and a focus on succession planning. I'm not afraid to move people around on the bus. We all know Jim Collins. Sometimes you have to move people across, sideways, to actually create opportunities for others. Again, in the words of Jim Collins, you have to start by getting the right people on the bus in the first place, and then grow your own talent. If I look at a highly successful department at Lambton, one foreign languages, 6 out of 9 of those individual teachers started as NQTs. 2 have been PGC students. We recruit for a cultural fit. We also provide opportunities for every single one of them to lead on something. There are huge numbers of opportunities that you can create. 3 of those staff are potential SLEs, and 7 are trained coaches and mentors. Little surprise that 7 out of 9 are outstanding teachers, with nobody less than good. So how do we create these opportunities? We have been fortunate. London Challenge gave us an amazing opportunity to develop middle leaders as system leaders across London, and indeed senior leaders. That, I think, is in danger of not being as effective as it was previously, because the brokering mechanisms are simply not as strong. But for us, through training school, teaching school, all of those opportunities, it's a win-win situation. We can develop individuals, because you always learn by working with others, but also contribute to the system at the same time. And if there's any funding involved in it, you keep the money within education, within the system, by using your own staff, not by relying on external consultants. The joy of the Teaching School Alliance has been to share these opportunities across a much wider group of schools. Of all the schools that we ever worked with in London Challenge, even the most challenging schools had some fantastic expertise somewhere in those schools, and people need to have the opportunity to share that and develop it. With reference to my earlier point on recruiting the right people, we now have the opportunity to recruit across our alliance in school direct places. This has been a totally collaborative venture, and some colleagues have struggled occasionally, however, to make decisions about, should I give this person a salaried route? My question is very simple. Does that person deserve £18,000 to teach and train at your school? It focuses the mind. However, we have met some amazing people with fascinating backgrounds who are coming into teaching through this particular route. The challenge for the system, I think, is training people with leadership experience from the private sector, the voluntary sector, train them to teach, but at the same time capitalising on what else they have to offer, and doing that to scale as quickly as possible. I don't think we're quite geared up for that. Colleagues may have a different view, but I don't think I'm personally geared up for it, and I'm not sure we are as a system. The middle and senior leadership development programmes that we've been involved in with future leaders, teaching leaders, are very interesting. And they may herald the beginning of a more radical approach to talent spotting and development across our alliance, not just within our schools. The challenge of the system for us, of course, is that's very nice within your alliance of 20 schools. What about people beyond the alliance? What about people who are not part of federations and chains and alliances? We've become quite tribal. We join things because we want to be part of something. But what about the people who aren't part of anything? The most important aspect of the programme, such as teaching leaders, which I do want to pay tribute to, is the fact for us now that the Teams programme is co-facilitated. There are opportunities for serving members of staff to facilitate on the Fellows programme. And the work that is done is related to outcomes. What directly is actually impacting on a child in a classroom through professional development of their teachers. And more importantly for me, it is backed by impact data. As a head teacher, planning professional development opportunities, as you all know, the big question is, should we do this? If we do it, will it affect a child or a group of children in a classroom in my school? Finally, some challenges. In terms of serving the system as a whole, it is probably easier to move talent around within chains of schools with strong governance structures than in looser federations and collaboratives. How long will the self-improvement system take to mature so that we can actually move talent around the system? Will very good people continue to leave the profession because of a lack of development that they have in schools? Can we allow that to continue to happen, that wastage of talent? We are told the money is in the system, so will the thousands of schools and governing bodies invest in people or lose? Do governors understand and appreciate the skills that fast-track non-traditional colleagues can bring to leadership positions in schools? Is there a role for more intervention, direct intervention, in our underperforming schools where leadership needs to be developed and strengthened? Can we just leave it to chance of the market to actually work? And looking around the room here, you may or may not agree with this, but what are we going to do about the wasted talent of NLEs, LLEs and specialist leaders of education who are not deployed currently, particularly in London, because the brokering mechanisms are simply not strong enough? And finally, I hope this won't happen, will schools become increasingly more protective of the talent they have as they face new forms of accountability?
Thank you, Sue.